You know that feeling, right? When an idea just clicks. You spot a gap in the market, maybe a problem nobody's quite solving, and you think, wow, I could actually build something incredible here.
Hmm.
But then, well, then reality kind of sets in. How do you turn that spark into something real, something tangible, especially when you need to get other people, investors maybe, to believe in it too? So today, that's exactly what we're diving into, the whole, exciting but definitely challenging journey of building a startup. We're focusing specifically on a really critical part, getting ready to pitch for investment. And our way in today is actually pretty unique. We're looking at a simulated conversation between two would-be entrepreneurs, Laura and James. It was set up to really show the kind of language people use in innovation, in investment talks. It gives us a great peek behind the curtain. Okay, so our mission here is to pull out the key takeaways, the essential words, those phrases that really work when you're talking startups. And want to demystify some of this world, give you a shortcut, really, to understand the core ideas and the language that entrepreneurs and investors actually use day to day.
Let's jump right in. All right, so it all starts with the idea. Naturally, you can almost picture Laura maybe sketching things out, really excited, and James immediately asking, okay, but who's really going to use this, and why this instead of something else? Their back and forth in the simulation really highlighted how they tackled that first brainstorming phase. What really jumped out at you about that foundational stage?
Well, what struck me right away was their focus. Right from the get-go, they zeroed in on two things: figuring out their core value proposition and really nailing down their target market. It wasn't just about having a cool idea. No, it was about defining the specific value their tech solution offered and exactly who benefits the most. These aren't just like planning steps. They're absolutely fundamental, the bedrock, really. And, that naturally leads into this idea of market validation, which isn't just a one-off thing you tick off a list. It's more like an ongoing reality check with your potential customers. Lauren James's talk, even implicitly, showed how vital it is to make sure your idea solves a real problem for actual people. Did you get a sense from their chat about how they might, test those assumptions quickly without spending ages building something nobody wants?
That's such a crucial point, isn't it? Because you hear about founders who think their idea is for everyone. And they often learn the hard way that trying to appeal to everybody means you appeal to nobody in particular. So, okay, once you've really focused on that niche, that specific problem you solve, how do you talk about it? How do you make it sound compelling, especially if you're looking for money?
Right, and that's exactly where the pitch comes in. Their simulated dialogue really laid out the bones of a strong investor pitch. You usually start with a hook, right? But it's not just a gimmick. It's about grabbing attention and showing you understand the problem so well it hits home for the investor too. Then you clearly lay out the problem and your solution. Here's the pain, here's our fix, and then crucially, you end with a clear call to action. What do you actually need from them?
Okay, and this is where learning those sort of confident professional phrases becomes really useful, because you can't just list facts. You need to persuade, build confidence. Did their conversation give hints on how to sound convincing but still, authentic, not just like a salesperson reading a script?
Oh, absolutely. Their dialogue had some really effective phrases, like they used things such as, "We aim to solve a major market gap." That immediately signals there's a real need and positions their solution as necessary. Another one that stood out was, "Our competitive advantage lies in." That directly tells investors what makes them different, why they can win. These aren't just buzzwords. They're really strategic ways to frame your unique selling points and show you've done your homework on the market. And importantly, when talking about demonstrating their solution, they brought up the minimum viable product, the MVP. And that's not just jargon. It's about showing your core concept works without having built the entire final thing yet. Think of it like a working sketch, maybe a basic version. It proves to investors you can deliver, even if it's not polished. It reduces their perceived risk, shows you're efficient.
Right. So you've got the compelling story, you've shown a working MVP.
Hi.
Which brings us to maybe the part that makes a lot of founders nervous. The money, the numbers, securing capital. What did their talks reveal about navigating that, let's be honest, pretty complex financial landscape?
Yeah, their discussion did a good job clarifying the different funding stages and terms. They mentioned seed funding, right? That's usually the very first money in, often used to just get the basic idea rolling, build that MVP we talked about. Then you hear about the angel investor. That's often an individual, someone with means, who puts in capital, and they usually do that in exchange for equity share, which basically means they get a piece of the company. They become a part owner. Understanding these terms isn't just about definitions, it's knowing what you're asking for, what you're potentially giving away in negotiations.
And it's just so dynamic, isn't it? That's what's exciting about startups, but also well, terrifying sometimes. I wonder, did Laura and James in their simulation seem to anticipate hitting walls or needing to suddenly change direction, even if they thought they had a solid plan?
Oh, they definitely seemed aware of that potential. Their conversation touched on terms reflecting that kind of fluidity, like scaling up. It sounds great, growing bigger, but it's often about managing the inherent chaos of rapid growth, hiring fast, keeping quality up, unexpected tech issues, all that stuff. They also seem to consider disruptive technology, an innovation that really shakes up an existing industry or how people behave. And then there's the pivot. That's a big one. It means making a fundamental shift in your strategy because maybe the first plan isn't working or you spot a better opportunity. And maybe the scariest one for investors, they talk about burn rate.
Ah, yes, burn rate. Sounds
Yeah.
ominous.
Well, it kind of is. It's simply how fast your company is spending money, usually cash reserve, before you start making more than you spend. Think of it like your startup's oxygen supply. Burn through it too fast without getting to profitability or securing more funding. And, well, you run out of air. It's critical to manage. But beyond just the terms, their dialogue really highlighted the human side. Communication mastery. Laura and James's exchange, even though simulated, wasn't just what they said, but how they seemed to say it. It modeled pretty sophisticated negotiation language and, really importantly, the ability to handle tough questions from investors with confidence. You know the phrase, win over. It's perfect here. It's not just about presenting data points. It's about building trust, earning their confidence, addressing doubts directly, and showing you're resilient.
Okay, so we've really covered a lot of ground. From that initial idea spark, through validating it in the market, then figuring out how to structure a pitch that actually lands. We've unpacked key money terms like seed funding, equity share, and looked at those crucial operational ideas like scaling up and watching your burn rate. This deep dive, drawing on Laura and James's simulated journey, has given us a really practical look at the language and concepts you need in the startup world. So here's something to think about. If you were sitting across from a startup founder ready to potentially invest, what's one question you'd ask them that isn't purely about the finances? Maybe something about their passion or how they handle setbacks. Or maybe, thinking about what we've discussed, how could you start to frame your own minimum viable product for an idea you have? It doesn't have to be a tech startup. These principles, this way of thinking, they could apply to almost any innovative project you might dream up.